All right, today we want to talk about intervals. Intervals. And in music, interval is a very fundamental thing in the creation of music. So we have interval as the distance between two musical sounds. So if I produce one musical sound like this, and I produce another one like this, you can tell that the two sounds are not the same. The reason why you're able to tell that the two sounds are not the same is that there's somehow a distance between them. If I do something like this is the first one, and I do another one like this, there's no distance between them, so they sound the same notes. But when you hear a sound like this and another one like this, you can sense that the two sounds are not the same. There's a distance between them. One is some distance away from the other in pitch. Now, when we talk about distance, we're not talking about distance in centimeters, meters, or all the physical distance measurements you know about. Is musical distance. The ear dictates that these two sounds are not the same. There's a distance between them, and that is what we call interval. And some intervals are closer to each other than some. For instance, if we have this, there's a difference between them, and there's a distance between them. If I have these two sounds I just played now, they are closer to each other than the first one. I'll play the first one again. Second one. The first one is farther apart, the second one is closer. You see? So if I have, so I can make a sound come closer and make it go farther apart from a particular sound. So the distance between two musical sounds is what we call interval. The distance in pitch, the distance in pitch between two musical notes is what we call interval. And interval is a common concept in music. We use the concept of interval in different ways to make calculations or to understand what the music we are playing or to analyze music and so on. Actually, the ear hears by measuring in the mind some sort of intervals to be able to know, okay, this note is this and this note is that. There are two ways intervals can be produced. One is melodically, the second one is harmonically. So we have melodic interval and harmonic interval. In melodic intervals, the notes that are to be measured, the notes that want to find out the distance between them will be played one after the other or produced one after the other. The notes that we are measuring their distance, the distance between them, will have to be produced one after the other. Melodic interval, which means the notes that make up the interval will be produced one after the other. So if I have, okay, I have this first sound now. So I want to produce another sound. I'm producing basically two sounds. D, F. There's a distance between D and F. Now I am producing the sounds one after the other. I'm not playing them at the same time. So if you try to get the interval the between two notes that are produced one after the other, it's called a melodic interval. I can say I want to get the interval between these two notes. They are played one after the other. What's the interval between them? The interval you arrive at will be called a melodic interval. Another way we can check an interval is interval that are produced at the same time. Intervals of notes, rather, intervals of notes that are produced at the same time. So while we have as a melodic interval, the interval between these two notes, we call the melodic interval. The one that is produced at the same time you can hear the two sounds played at the same time now. I'm playing D and F at the same time. The interval between these two sounds that are produced together is called harmonic interval. If they are produced one after the other, it becomes a melodic interval. The interval between them when they are produced at the same time becomes harmonic. That's something like this. I'm producing D and F at the same time. So the interval between them is called harmonic interval. We also have another concept we call consonant and dissonant interval. Now, consonant simply means an interval that sounds satisfying to the ear, while dissonant interval is an interval that doesn't sound satisfying to the ear. If I have something like this, this is a consonant interval because it is satisfying to the ear. It's not disturbing to the ear. But if I have something like this is a dissonant interval because it's disturbing to the ear. It requires resolution. It requires a resolution. It's disturbing to the ear. But the first one is consonant because it's satisfying to the ear. Consonant, dissonant, consonant, dissonant. All right. So, and there are intervals that are generally considered as consonant interval. Interval of a third apart, interval of a fifth, interval of an octave. These are consonant intervals. But intervals that are dissonant are interval of a second, interval of a fourth, interval of a seventh. Let me give you example. This interval of a second, dissonant. Interval of a fourth, dissonant. Interval of a seventh, dissonant. But if we have consonant interval, they sound like this. Interval of a third, which is a consonant interval, will sound like this. It sounds satisfying. Interval of a fifth, satisfying. Interval of an octave, satisfying. So these are consonant intervals. So we have dissonant and consonant intervals. Inversion of interval, we're talking about turning around the positions of two notes that make up an interval. Of course, interval is usually made up to two notes. So what you do is you turn it the other way around. if you have two notes, the lower note becomes the higher note, and the higher note becomes the lower note. So if I have something like these two notes, so if I have these two notes, C and E, so C and E, two notes, C and E. If I want to invert it, C is the lowest note, the higher note is E. So I'm going to make E the lowest note and C the higher note. What to do? Look for a higher C, which is this one. So instead of having C and E, we take this C up so that C will become the higher note while E becomes the lower note. So have something like this. The original form is this, C and E. The inverted form is this, made up of same notes, C and E, but this time around it becomes E and C. The C goes up to the higher C, while we will retain this one to make it the lowest note. So we have E, C, as against C, E. That is inversion of interval. If I have F and A, and I want to invert it, I have to make A the lowest note. So A will be the lower note. F will have to go up from this F to this higher F, from this F to this higher F. So you have A and F this way, as against FA, AF, FA, AF. In the same way, we can also have inversion of chords. Inversion of chords. In inversion of chords, we have more than two notes. That's the difference between inversion of interval and inversion of chords. We have two notes. So we have more than two notes rather. In inversion of interval, we have two notes, but in inversion of chords, we have more than two notes. In chord, we can have three notes like C, E, G, C, E, G, C, E, G. Let me just give a little analogy. If you have the words J, O, Y, J, O, Y as three musical alphabets, even though they are not, just an example. If you want to invert them, we can have them in three ways: J, O, Y, O, Y, J, and Y, J, O. J, O, Y is the original form. If you want to make J the last alphabet, it becomes O, Y, J. If you want to make O the last alphabet, it becomes Y, J, O. Just different ways of rearranging the notes of the word joy. So you can make J the last alphabet by bringing it forward to become the last, while O becomes the first. You can make Y the first, making J the second, and O the last, So that is also what we do in chord. We can have C, E, G. We can make this one the higher note, E, C, G, C, E, G, E, C, E, G, C, C, E, G, E, G, C, because this one now have been brought up, so you have it as E, C, G. You can take this one too up, this E up here, E will go up, becomes C, G, C, E, G, C, E. Remember, we are still dealing with three alphabets, C, E, and G. The only difference being that we now choose which one becomes the lower and the higher notes at different points. So you have C, E, G, and I want to make the higher note to become C instead of G. C, E, G. And now go as E, G, C, making C the higher note. And I can go forward to make E, the higher notes. So instead of E, G, C, I have G, C, E. So this is the original position. We usually call this one first inversion. First inversion is when the middle note, the second note, becomes the lowest note. This is this. So C, E, G, this is the middle note. It becomes the lowest note. E becomes the lowest note. That becomes first inversion. If I make C the lowest note, it becomes second inversion. So we call this one root position, first inversion, second inversion. C the lowest note, E the lowest note, G the lowest note. So I have C, E, G, E, G, C, G, C, E. Remember, it's still the same alphabet, just been now rearranged. C, E, G, E, G, C, G, C, E. So that is what we do when we invert notes and when we invert chords. We call the first one inversion of interval, the second one inversion of chords. So intervals are distances between musical sounds, and we measure intervals in semitones. We measure intervals in semitones. So what is a semitone? Semi means half. So semitone is half of a tone, which means two semitones will give you one tone, and half a tone is a semitone. So let us look at how these are calculated on the keyboard, those intervals. Now we have the notes on the keyboard. I have here as C. This is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Alright, this is C sharp. The note between C and D is C sharp. The note between D and E is D sharp or E flat. The note between F and G is F sharp or G flat. The note between G and A is G sharp or A flat. The note between A and B is A sharp or B flat. So this is how we calculate the distances. Okay, each of these is a semitone apart. From here to here is a semitone. 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 So that is it. Each step is a semitone. From C to C sharp is a semitone. C sharp to D is a semitone. So we can comfortably say that from C to D will give us two semitones. C to C sharp will give us one. C sharp to D will give us two semitones. Let us check again. Let's say from C to F. Let's check how many semitones we have from C to F. I'm on C now. I take from here to here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So from C to F is 5 semitones. Let's check another one. C to A flat, which is the same thing as G sharp. C to F. So I'm on C already. I count C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So from C to A flat will give us 8 semitones. 8 semitones. C to F sharp. Let's check C to F sharp. How many semitones that will give us? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. From C to F sharp is 6 semitones. 6 semitones. If we have an interval, there are two approaches to it. In calculating the interval, we have quantitative and qualitative approach. So interval is calculated as a quantity and as a quality. If I have a particular note, let's say C, the C I just produced now, if I produce another note next to it, which is a D, I can say that from C to D is a second. From C to D is a second. Why? Because D is a second alphabet ahead of C. If I take C as the first alphabet, of which C is the first alphabet, a second alphabet ahead of C is D. So from C to D is a second. If I want to check how many, what's the quantity between C and F, for instance, I'll check from C, I have D, E, F. So from C to F is a fourth, because from C to D is the second, from C to E is a third, from C to F is a fourth. F is a fourth alphabet ahead of C alphabetically. When they move alphabetically, you can't C, you can't D, you can't E, you can't F. Four alphabets. So from C to F is a fourth. From C to E will give us a third because we have C, D, and E. E is a third alphabet ahead of C, while D is a second alphabet ahead of C. So that is how we calculate the quantity of an interval. You just check how the distance in alphabet between one particular alphabet and the other. If I have A to F, what's the distance? I have A, B, C, D, E, F. How many letters am I counting? Six. From A to F is a sixth. It's a sixth because F is a sixth letter ahead of A. If A is the first, B will be the second, C will be the third, D will be the fourth, E will be the fifth, and F will be the sixth. So from A to F is a sixth. So that's how we get the quantity of an interval, whether it's a second or a third or a fourth or a fifth or a sixth, and so on. All right, at this point, we want to talk about the qualitative part of intervals, how to know the quality of an interval. So if I have C moving to C, it is called unison because there's really no movement. C moving to C is unison. If I have C moving to D, if I have C moving to D, is a second. This is a second. This is a second. Okay, we call it major second. C to D is a major second. C to E is a major third. C to F is a perfect fourth. C to G is a perfect fifth. C to A is a major sixth. C to B is a major seventh. C to C is a perfect octave. I'll take that again. C to D is a major second. C to E is a major third. C to F is a perfect fourth. C to G is a perfect fifth. C to A is a major sixth. C to B is a major seventh. C to C is a perfect octave. So C to D is a major second. And if we check the number of semitones from C to D, there are two semitones. That's from here to here one, from here to here two. So C to D is a major second, and a major second has two semitones. C to E is a major third, and a major third has four semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4. From here to here, from here to here, from here to here, from here to here. So C to E has four semitones. C to F has five semitones. You can calculate that yourself. C to G has seven semitones. That's a perfect fifth has seven semitones. A perfect fourth has five semitones. A major third. A major third has four semitones. A major second has two semitones. So from here to here, a major second, two semitones. From here to here, a major third, four semitones. From here to here, a perfect fourth, five semitones. From here to here, a perfect fifth, seven semitones. From here to here, a major sixth, which is nine semitones. From here to here, a major seventh, which is 11 semitones. From here to here, a perfect octave, which is 12 semitones. Alright? So, you know the intervals: major, second, perfect unism, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and perfect octave. That is how intervals are calculated. In calculating intervals, two intervals may have the same quantitative distance but different qualitative distance. That's from C to F is a perfect fourth. But from C to F sharp, even though it's still a fourth, because there's C and F, you see the distance between C and F, even though the second one has F sharp. So from C to F is a perfect fourth. From C to F sharp is also a fourth, but can't be a perfect fourth because there's a difference between F and F sharp. Okay, so that is what we are going to do in the next segment. First of all, understand what we have: a major second, two semitones, a major third, four semitones, a perfect fourth, five semitones, a perfect fifth, seven semitones, a major sixth, nine semitones, a major seventh, 11 semitones, and a perfect octave, giving you 12 semitones, which we've done now. In the next episode, rather in the next segment, same episode, we're going to be looking at other intervals that will be derived from these ones. So we have a definition for the two major intervals we use. We have major and perfect. Major is used on seconds, thirds, sixths, and sevenths, while perfect is used on unison, fourths, fifths, and octaves. So we have perfect unison, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, and perfect octave, while we have major second, major third, major sixth, and major seventh. Alright, so in this lesson now, I want to look critically at how we can derive other intervals. Other intervals, qualitatively speaking, are derived from major and from perfect. So major minus one semitone will give you minor. Major minus one semitone will give you a minor. And then a minor minus one semitone will give you diminished interval, which means major minus 2 will give you diminished. Major plus one interval, one semitone interval will give you augmented. So that is how, okay, you need to keep that in mind. Major minus one minor, minor minus one diminished, but major plus one is augmented. That's under the side of major. On the side of perfect, perfect plus one is augmented, perfect minus one is diminished. What is the essence of that? Let's look at this. If I have C to F is a perfect fourth. If I have C to F sharp is a fourth, but we want to know the type of fourth it is. How are we going to know? We'll notice that from C to F is a perfect fourth. And a perfect fourth here has five semitones. But C to F sharp is a fourth with six semitones instead of five. C to F is a perfect fourth with 5 semitones. C to F sharp is also a fourth, but it doesn't have 5 semitones, it has 6. So we now notice that this is a perfect, here is perfect plus 1. Perfect interval plus 1 extra semitone. Perfect plus 1 is augmented, like we said before. Remember, I said major plus 1 is augmented, major minus 1 is minor, major minus 2 is diminished, which is minor minus 1 is diminished. But on the side of perfect, remember fourths use perfect fourths. So perfect plus 1 will give you augmented, perfect minus 1 will give you diminished. So if I have a perfect fourth here giving me 5 semitones, I have a fourth with 6, it means perfect plus 1, because 5 plus 1 is 6. I have a perfect plus 1 giving you 6 semitones. So this becomes an augmented fourth instead of a perfect fourth. So this is perfect fourth, augmented fourth. C to F is a perfect fourth. C to F sharp is an augmented fourth because it's a fourth that has 1 extra semitone ahead of the perfect form of it. The perfect fourth is 5 semitones, while the augmented fourth has 6 semitones. So an augmented interval will always be 1 semitone ahead of the perfect form of the quantity we are dealing with. Let's look at another one. A perfect fifth. This is a perfect fifth. It has 7 semitones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It has 7 semitones. If I have C to G as perfect fifths bearing 7 semitones, if I have C to G sharp, because of the presence of C and G, we can say it's still a fifth, but there's 1 extra semitone added to it. So if a perfect fifth has 7 semitones, now we're having 8 semitones instead of 7. It means it's now an augmented fifth because it's a perfect fifth with an extra semitone, giving you an augmented fifth. Let's look at third, a major third. Let's look at third. This is a major third. C to E is a major third. C to E flat is also a third, but we want to know what kind of third it is because we already know that this one is a major third. But this one is C to E flat. C to E has 4 semitones, major third, 4 semitones. But this is a third with 3 semitones, which is major minus 1, giving us minor. So this is a minor third. Any third that has 3 semitones is a minor third. Any third that has 4 semitones is a major third. So you see that a minor third is 1 semitone lower. Let's do something else. If you have this as C to E double flat, you still see that there's C and E in them, so you have it as a third, C to E double flat. But if you check the number of semitones, it's 2, so this is a diminished third, because it's a third that has 2 semitones lower than the major form of it. Major third, minor third, diminished third. C to E flat, C to E double flat, and it's like that. If we have a perfect unism as C to C, it means that C to C sharp is still a unism with an extra semitone. That's an augmented unism. C to C is perfect unism. C to C sharp is an augmented unism. Remember, this is enharmonic equivalence. Anything you name it is what it becomes. We can say it is. We can say that this is C to D flat. C to D flat and C to C sharp are not the same thing. C to C sharp is still unism with an extra semitone, so it's an augmented unism. While C to C is a perfect unism, C to C sharp is an augmented unism. But C to D flat, even though it's the same sound they produce, C to D flat will be a minor second because C to D is a major second. C to D flat which is a semitone lower than a major second, will give us a minor second. So C to D flat is a minor second, while C to C sharp is an augmented unison. Just get those differences. So C to F sharp is not the same thing as C to G flat. Even though they are talking about the same notes, but they are not the same in naming. Okay, C to F sharp is an augmented fourth, but C to G flat is a diminished fifth. Because once you mention G, you're talking of fifth. Once you mention F, you're talking of fourth. They're not the same thing. You follow the alphabet strictly. So this is how we calculate intervals. We first get the quantity, whether it's a second, third, fourth, and fifth. Then you now go and calculate the number of semitones it gives you. Okay, and that lets you know whether it is a major or a minor or a diminished, or whether it's augmented. That's if the basic main interval for that quantity is major. But if it is perfect, you can get only augmented and diminished. That's if it is one semitone higher than the perfect form or lower respectively. That is how we are going to deal with interval for now. So two things, quantity and quality, and you use the number of semitones to know the quality, while we use the alphabetical distance to know the quantity. Thank you.